Good day everyone, especially Sir Miggy. I am here to present to you about one of the topic of my subject, platform technologies. The first one is FCFS, or first come first serve method. What is the first come first serve method? First come first serve, or FCFS, is an operating system scheduling algorithm that automatically execute required requests and processes in order of their arrival. It is the asides and simple CPU scheduling algorithm. In this type of algorithm, processes which request the CPU first get the CPU allocation first. This is managed with the FIFO required. The default form of first come first serve is first come first serve. As the process enters the ready queue, its PCB process control block is linked with the tail of the QA, and when the CPU becomes free, it should be assigned to the process at the beginning of the QA. Characteristics of first come first serve method: it supports preemptive and preemptive scheduling algorithm. Jobs are always executed on a first come first serve basis. It is easy to implement and use the method in poor in performance, and the general wait time is quite high. Example of first come first serve scheduling. A real life example of first come first serve method is buying a movie ticket on the ticket counter. In this scheduling algorithm, a person is served according to the QE manner. The person who arrives first in the QE first buys the ticket, and then the next one. This will continue until the last person in the QE purchase the ticket using this algorithm. The CPU process worked in a similar manner. How first come first serve works: calculating average waiting time. Here is an example of 5 processes arriving at different times. Each process has a different burst time. Using the first come first serve scheduling algorithm, these processes are handled as follows. Step Step blank. The process begins with P4, which has arrival time 0. Step 1. At time. That's 1. At time equals 1. Thus P3 arrives. P4 is still executing, hence P3 is kept in a queue. Step 1 at the time. Step 1 at time equals 1. P3 arrives. P4 is still executing. Hence P3 is kept in a queue. Step 3 at time equals 3. P4 process completes its execution. Step 4 at time equals 4. P3, which is first in the queue, starts execution. Step 5 at time equals 5. P2 arrives and it is kept in a queue. Step 6 at time 11. P3 completes its execution. Step 7 at time 11. P1 start execution. It has a burst time of 6. It completes execution at time in interval 17. Step at time. Step 8 at time 17. P5 starts execution. It has a burst time of 4. It completes execution at time 21. Step 9 at time 21. P2 start execution. It has a burst time of 2. It completes execution at time interval 23. Step 10. Let's calculate the average waiting time for above example. Advantage of first come first serve. Here are pros benefits of using first come first serve. Scheduling algorithm. The simplest form of a CPU scheduling algorithm, easy to program first come first serve. Disadvantage of first come first serve. Here are, are here are drawbacks of using first come first serve scheduling algorithm. It is a non-preemptive CPU scheduling algorithm. So after the process has been allocated to the CPU, it will never release the CPU until it finishes executing. The average waiting time is high. Short processes that are at the back of the queue have to wait for the long process of the front to finish. Not an ideal technique for time sharing systems. Because of its simplicity, first come first serve is not very efficient. Summary. Definition. First come first serve is an operating system scheduling algorithm that automatically executes requests and processes by order of their arrival. It supports non-preemptive and preemptive scheduling algorithm. First come first serve standard for first come first serve. A real life example of first come first serve method is buying a movie ticket on the ticket counter. It is the simplest form of a CPU scheduling algorithm. It is a non-preemptive CPU scheduling algorithm. So after the process has been allocated to the CPU, it will never release the CPU until it finishes executing. Next is what is shortest job first scheduling. Shortest job first is an algorithm in which the process having a smallest execution time is chosen for the next execution. This scheduling method can be preemptive or non-preemptive, is significantly reduce the average waiting time for another processes awaiting execution. The full form of shortest job first is shortest job first. There are basically two types of shortest job first method. Non preemptive shortest job first, preemptive shortest job first. Characteristics of shortest job first scheduling. It is associated with its job as a unit of time to complete. This algorithm method is helpful for batch type processing where waiting for job to complete is not critical. It can improve process throughput by making sure that shorter job and executed first. Hence, possibly have a short turn turn turnaround time time. It improves job output by offering shorter jobs, which should be executed first, which mostly have a shorter turnaround time. Non-preemptive shortest job first. In non-preemptive scheduling, once the CPU cycle is allocated to process, the process holds it tells it till it reaches a waiting state or terminated. Consider the following 5 processes, each having its own unique burst time and arrival time. Step 0. At time 0, P4 arrives and starts executions. Step 1. At time 1, process P3 arrives but P4 still needs 2 execution units to complete. It will continue executions. Step 2. At time equals 2, process P1 arrives and is added to the waiting queue. P4 will continue executions. Step 3. At time equals 3, process P4 will finish its executions. The burst time of P4 and P1 is compared. Process P1 is executed because its burst time is less compared to P3. Step 4. At time equals 4, process P5 arrives and is added to the waiting queue. Process will continue execution. Step 5. At time equals 5, process 2 arrives and is added to the waiting queue. Process will continue execution. Process 1 will continue execution. Step 6. At time equals 9, process 1 will finish its execution. The burst time of process 3, process 5, and process 2 is compared. Process 2 is executed because its burst time is the lowest. Step 7. At time equals 10, process 2 is executed and process 3 and process 5 are in the waiting QA. Step 8. At time equals 11, process 2 will finish its execution. The burst time of process 3 and process 5 is compared. Process 5 is executed because its burst time is lower. Step 9. At time equals 15, process 5 will finish its execution. Step 10. At time equals 23, process 3 will finish its execution. Step 11. Let's calculate the average waiting time for above example. Advantage of shortest job first. In primitive shortest job first scheduling, jobs are put into the ready queue as they come. A process with shortest burst time begins execution. If a process with even a shortest burst time arrives, the current process is removed or preempted from execution, and this shorter job is allocated CPU cycle. Consider the following 5 processes. Advantage of shortest job first. Here are the benefits proportions of using shortest job first method. Shortest job first is frequently used for a long-term scheduling. The reduce the average waiting time over FIFO first out algorithm. Shortest job first method gives the lowest average waiting time for a specific set of processes. It is appropriate for the jobs running in batch, where run times are known in advance. For the batch system of long-term scheduling, a batch time estimate can be obtained from the job description. For short 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 term scheduling, we need to predict the value of the next burst time, probably optimal with regard to average turnaround time. Disadvantage of test job first. Here are some drawbacks of shortest job first al- algorithm. Job completion time must be known earlier, but it is hard to predict. It is often used in a batch system for long-term scheduling. Shortest job first can be implemented for CPU scheduling for the short term. It is because there is no specific method to predict the length of the upcoming CPU burst. This algorithm make use very long turnaround times or starvation, requires knowledge of how long a process or job will run. It leads to the starvation that does not reduce average turnaround time. It is hard to know the length of the upcoming CPU request. Seed time should be recorded that result in more overhead on the processor summary. Shortest job first is an algorithm in which the process having the smallest execution time is chosen for the next execution. Shortest job first scheduling is Shortest job first scheduling is associated with each job as a unit of time to complete. This algorithm method is helpful for batch type processing where waiting for job to, to complete is not critical. There are basically two types of shortest job first methods 1 non-preemptive shortest job first and 2 preemptive shortest job first. In non-preemptive scheduling, once the CPU cycle is allocated to process, the process hold it till it reaches a waiting state or terminated. In preemptive shortest job first scheduling, job are put into the ready queue as they come. Although the process with short burst time begins, the current process is removed or preempted from execution, and the job which is shorter is executed first. Shortest job first is frequently used for long-term scheduling. It reduces the average waiting time over FIFO, first in, first out. Algorithm in shortest job first scheduling, job completion time must be known earlier, but it is hard to predict. Shortest job first can be implemented for CPU scheduling for the short term. It is because there is no specific method to predict the length of the upcoming CPU burst. Last is round robin. What does round robin mean? Round robin is a process used for network communication and operating system loaded balancing. A system that works in a round-robin fashion distributes loaded based on the round-robin algorithm. Wikipedia explains round-robin. The round-robin algorithm uses its scheduling techniques to assign processing time, slice, and transfer queued data packets. Network devices such as routers and switches implement special round-robin algorithm buffer queues which exist in device memory and store incoming and overloaded data for future processing. The term is also used in load balancing for servers. For example, a front-end load balancer on a web farm could distribute internet traffic among a group of web servers based on a round-robin process. That that's all for the platform technologies. Thank you and God bless and goodbye.